Hokie Hangover. We are live. 2025 official season preview for the Virginia Tech Hokies. I'm here with Andrew Alex, Mike McDaniel. Izzy Rulin will be joining us a little bit later. Boys, real quick, Counts Family Pharmacy in Blacksburg. Make sure you hit up Jeremy Counts and the wonderful staff there. That's the only place to go. And also Home Field Apparel. Make sure you get code BEAMERBALL for your 15% off your first order. Andrew, good evening. Welcome, sir.
Welcome, Ricky. It is good to be back here for our seventh season preview on the Hokie Hangover podcast. I wore a fitting hat just for the occasion.
Hell yeah.
With that
You wear that
said,
hat all the time, though.
I do. I was wearing it in the sixth season. I was wearing a jersey like it many seasons before. But I will say, and not that it's any indicator, the football season off to a good start for me. First Saturday of college football, week 0. Great opportunity to break out the betting apps. Iowa State money line, check. Hawaii -2.5. Ooh, that was a close one, but check. And then suddenly you're feeling good. You've won a bunch of money. What's the ultimate heat check that you can do gambling? That is betting Tommy Fleetwood to win. We did that.
Call the hotline, man.
And yeah, here we are.
Speaking of wearing the same hat, Mike McDaniel, welcome.
Yeah, I wear this one a lot. I wanted to say that Andrew wearing the number 7 hat. Maybe that's how many wins we'll have this year.
I guess we'll find out because one of us is bound to be right on this damn prediction. So we'll have to get to that later. So before we get into the actual picks here, game by game, which we will do towards the second half of the show, I think it's important to frame this season around what I think is the biggest question. And I think it's kind of an unknown given the Board of Visitors presentation that we saw just a couple weeks ago. How hot is Brent Pry's seat actually? Because a lot of us like to talk about this coaching staff doesn't have it. This coaching staff isn't getting the job done. But as we've covered ad nauseum on the show, Whit Babcock is likely not going to be able to fire Brent Pry because he will be fired himself first. So when we're trying to frame the season preview in terms of win-losses, the first thing I thought about was, well, how does the win-loss impact Brent Pry's future? And then I'm thinking to myself, is his seat a lot cooler than we actually think?
I don't think, phrased a different way, I don't think it's as hot as some people on social media think it is. Like we've been pretty clear about this point. Like, I don't think he gets fired if this team wins like 7 or 8 games. I'm not even sure he gets fired if they win 6. No. I just, his buyout is sizable enough. I don't know if they're done paying Fuente yet.
That's a good point.
Revenue sharing piece of it. We just did the whole podcast on the Board of Visitors presentation where, like we said, Whit was right about a lot of the stuff he brought to the table. There needs to be more institutional funding towards football. Where does it come from is the big question. I don't think they want to fire him. And I don't think Virginia Tech fans should be actively rooting for it either. Like the fan base being like, oh, well, this coaching staff, like you just said, Rick, like this coaching staff doesn't have it. We're having issues, winning games. Like, get him out of here. Let's hire Michael Vick. What are we like? Let's everybody.
Michael Vick hasn't even coached.
He hasn't coached
yet.
He hasn't coached a game yet.
Level. And he's already the next head coach in Blacksburg.
Correct. Like half the fans already have him fired. Like let's take him fired and Vic hired. Let's take a breath and see if this staff with the new OC and the new DC can coach their way out of this. This is not, I don't think it's as dire as some fans think it is. The schedule is workable. There are opportunities on here for sure. November is tough. We'll get into the schedule later. November's tough. Obviously, the first 2 weeks of September are tough, but this schedule's workable. You can get on it. You can go on a little run if you're able to split the opening 2 against SEC schools. And let's give this staff a shot here in 2025 and see what they can do. I don't think Pry gets fired unless this gets really bad. That possibility is out there if everything goes to shit here. But Witt is not going to be the one pulling the trigger here. This would be Sands, and it would be on both Witt and Pry. So let's just wait and see.
I mean, yeah, Mike, I think you said it right. That is the big question that everyone's asking, right? What's the number? How bad would things have to get in order for that trigger to be pulled? But, you know, the Board of Visitors meeting was any indication, right? These aren't people that were necessarily looking at the athletic program with a particularly high level of priority because, and to Low Country Living's point, with a clueless Board of Visitors, no way Pry is on the hot seat. I think reality is to be faced there because, like you guys said, Witt ain't firing him. And the vibes that were given off, we'll call them vibes, by the people sitting in that meeting did not indicate an incredible sense of urgency that would lead to, you know, Witt Babcock's termination less than 365 days from now. I mean, less than 120 days from now, right?
Yeah.
So I think there's obviously a possible floor. You know, you guys shrug and say he's safe at 6 wins. I think there's people that would say he would be safe even at 5 wins. Like, the thing would really have to bottom out. And the way the schedule plays out does allow, with 2 SEC losses, and like you say, if they can split those SEC opponents, that's a big if for a team who hasn't beaten a non-conference Power 5 opponent in 8 seasons at home in, you know, almost 20 years. But if you don't split those and you go 0-2, you know, you have games against Old Dominion and Wofford where even wins will be harshly criticized after 0-2. And then you have some road tests, right? I mean, you have NC State and Georgia Tech with Wake Forest in the middle. And, you know, we've talked about this so many times over the years, but, you know, the momentum of a fan base and the negativity or lack thereof around a program can seep in, you know, and maybe especially with a group of guys that doesn't necessarily have a ton of experience or connection to Blacksburg and haven't been leaning on each other for years and years and years, like in and out of practice. There's a lot that goes into it, and you can see things spiraling the wrong way. You know, there's also a way that you can look at this schedule and see, you know, riding into what looks to be a challenging November, maybe with the perception of a little momentum, right? And there's so many unanswered questions here, but I think if you're looking to Brent Pry's job security, you look at the first 2 games, and then depending on how things go in the middle, you know, those last 3 or 4 could be maybe the nail in the coffin. We shall see. It's, you know, jump on the roller coaster, everyone. Labor Day is here, and we're going to do it all again.
Yeah, I think if there's anything we can guarantee, boys, it's that this will be a roller coaster season. And I think that at least my picks are going to bear that out. Mike, you mentioned that Tech fans should obviously want this to work, and I certainly agree with you. And I think the way that this works best, the most feasible option, is that these 2 coordinator hires really pan out. And I saw this sentiment earlier on X today, and I don't remember who I saw it from, so please don't think this is an original thought from me, because Lord knows I don't have many of those. But somebody mentioned that Philip Montgomery might be the most qualified offensive coordinator in the school's history. And I'm not going to claim to be super knowledgeable about Tech football prior to Beamer. That's really outside my wheelhouse. But if we're talking about the the last 3 decades, I don't know that is way off base. I mean, just based on the folks that Virginia Tech has employed over the last many years here in Blacksburg. But you're talking about a guy that's a proven play caller. He's a head coach that had some moderate levels of success at a really tough place to have success at. Coached a Heisman winner. This is a guy that has had a track record of explosive offenses and productive offenses at multiple stops. And I don't know that Virginia Tech has ever had, at least in my lifetime, any offensive coordinator with that kind of resume. And if you're a Tech fan, you have to hope that Philip Montgomery can take an offense that's got a ton of new guys, right? You have a ton of new players at skill positions. You have an offensive line that is replacing a bunch of guys. You've got a quarterback that is really playing the first season healthy since his first year as a starter. So lots of unknowns on offense. You have to hope that he can make something out of this. And my confidence in Montgomery making something out of this is higher than it was for Tyler Bowen. So I do have some optimism there that Virginia Tech might be able to turn this thing around on offense. Defense, I'm a little more skeptical, but I don't know what you guys think.
I was trying to think of a coach, an offensive coach, coordinator in particular, that has been more qualified than Montgomery. I'm having trouble doing that. I don't know, man. I think it's I said at the time, I thought it was a pretty good hire considering the circumstances, you know?
Yeah.
Bowen leaving kind of came out of nowhere. We talked about the hand Pry was dealt. You know, we've criticized the staff plenty, so don't take, if you're new here, don't take this as like a cop out for Pry or something. If this is your first time ever listening to us, we've criticized the staff plenty. But you know, there have been a couple of things that just like simply haven't worked out, you know. Joe Rudolph, it didn't work. He left at a really bad time. Pry has to make a tough hire, offensive line, kind of off script, you know. Same thing happened here with Montgomery a little bit, you know. Bowen leaves at kind of an awkward time in the offseason. It was kind of after everybody had been picked over, you know. It's post-national championship. It's right before spring ball. And here comes Philip Montgomery. The one thing I will say is that it's an interesting buy low candidate here. And this isn't like, it's more circumstance for Montgomery than anything else, right? Like, you know, he coaches RG3 at Baylor. His stock's never been higher. He takes the Tulsa job, which is an impossible job. It's a very, very hard job, even harder now with NIL. He gets a second contract at Tulsa, which that in and of itself is a gigantic accomplishment that he was able to get a second contract at Tulsa. The fact that he was there 8 years, he took the team to 4 bowl games. That is I cannot emphasize that enough. That is a very difficult job. One of the toughest jobs in the FBS. Gets a second contract, takes him to 4 bowl games, leaves and goes to Auburn. Hugh Freeze is kind of an idiot, but he can coach offense. And Hugh Freeze thought Montgomery, and I know he meddles a lot with his offensive coordinators, Hugh Freeze does, but he thought Montgomery was good enough to coach offense in the SEC at a good school in Auburn, one that's had a lot of success on the football field. Montgomery's a good hire, guys. I don't know if it's going to work, but there's too much of a track record here of it working. I don't know if he's going to have all the pieces right away. I do like some of the new skill guys. I like some of the pieces on the offensive line on paper, but it's really got to all come together pretty quickly. And it may only be 1 year of it, you know? So it's kind of just got to work from the get go. I don't know if it's going to. That doesn't mean we won't sit here and criticize, a play call here, a play call. I mean, he's an offensive coordinator. He's going to make a bad call, That's just what they do. They screw up. That's fine. But I'm with you, Rick. I think this gives you more of a puncher's chance. I think it'll be less peaks and valleys, right? I think it'll be more consistency with Montgomery than we saw with Tyler Bowen. I think it's going to be less of the ups and downs week to week and more of, I think of a higher floor, I think is the best way to put it. So that's what I think about it. And I've been high on it from the get-go just because given the circumstances, I thought it was a pretty strong choice.
Well, yeah, I mean, we mentioned the most qualified, in Virginia Tech's history. Again, I'm not going to go back and, every time you make an argument like this, someone comes in and says, oh, well, this guy in the 70s. Yeah. Let's think about at least somewhat near term. The last two offensive coordinators that were hired didn't come in with any previous FBS play calling experience. So, I mean, yeah, we could pick hairs over interim roles in bowl games after coaches. Never a full season.
Yeah.
And though obviously Cornelison had a lot of success early on in his tenure, there was flaw and inconsistency there. And with Bowen, it certainly took him a year to get under his skis, and really more than that because they had to switch the offensive scheme. 4 games into the 2023 season, it worked, but nonetheless there, right? So that level of experience that Montgomery brings, you hope leads to the ability to look at what you have in camp, know this is a do or die situation, and make very good educated guesses about what your strategy should be to get the most out of the talent that you have on the roster. Because I think the overarching theme of Virginia Tech in 2024, as it was in plenty of other seasons in the past, under Justin Fuente or what have you, but looking back at just last year, in a team that just had 5 guys drafted to the NFL and a handful of others transfer into what in this day and age of college football is a bigger time program. No doubt about it. With all of that, and we'll see how many NFL guys were on the roster last year when the dust settles in a few years and the guys who are playing in the SEC now either end up there or don't. But 6-6 was the result of a team that was less than the sum of its parts. And a lot of that falls on coaching and utilization and preparation and all that stuff. So when you had to bring in a guy in the first week of February to take a team that's going to be filled with, with the exception of pretty much quarterback on the offensive side of the ball, a bunch of unfamiliar faces. You want a guy that's been there before, has worked calling plays at a high level with a number of different rosters and skill sets and what have you, and figure out how to get more with less. Now, this could play to an advantage early on with Virginia Tech, and we'll talk about that later. If you want to look at the optimistic side of, these South Carolina or Vanderbilt matchups, there's definitely a viewpoint you could take there. But yeah, I mean, if you want to take an optimistic view going into this thing, the thesis is as follows. Though last year's team had a lot of talent, they were held back. And maybe the replacements can take at least certainly less known team right now to greater heights. And that's all you can really hope for.
Yeah, interesting comment here from Caleb Fields that he likes that he coached at the UFL and that you had the guys you had and you just had to figure it out. I don't know how much will translate over to the college game, Caleb, but the idea of having to essentially introduce yourself to a bunch of new players every year and building the scheme around the roster that changes, that certainly could be something that he will benefit from this year, given that this is an entirely new situation for him. And then friend of the show, Grayson Wimbush, Mike, I saw you laugh when this comment came through. Imagine a world where it doesn't take our offensive coordinator 4 warm-up games. Yes, Grayson, that would be much, much appreciated.
Splendid, if you will.
Yes.
We're gonna find out.
Yeah, and it would go a long way in him not having 4 warm-up games if these transfers that Virginia Tech has brought in on the offensive end work out. And to be honest, I thought I had this figured out when early on. I thought this was Terrion Stewart, and I thought he was going to run the show. Doesn't look like that, actually. Looks like Marcellus Hawkins is going to be RB1. Terrion Stewart may not even be healthy for this weekend's game. He's been in a boot. For me, the offense is such a wild card, and the defense is even more so. And we'll get to that potentially later on. But I think the biggest thing for me on offense, and we kind of touched on this in the offensive preview, is how are these transfers able to plug these holes, and did Virginia Tech do enough to replace the talent that they lost? It's really hard to replace guys like Bashal Tootin and Jalen Lane and Daquan Felton, and even Ollie Jennings when he was healthy. Stephen Gosnell, obviously. How do you go about replacing those guys? And based on the players that were brought in, especially at receiver, I just don't really know what the answer is there. And so much of this is going to hinge on Kyron Drones' health and how he's been able to maybe grow mentally as a quarterback in the last several months when he's not been able to play. There's a ton of question marks on this team in general, but I think for me on offense, it's going to be one, Philip Montgomery and how he's able to get himself rolling back at the college level, but also all these new players on offense. How are they going to be able to gel? And is it enough? Did Brent Pry do enough in the transfer portal?
Yeah, I mean, my thing is your offensive line coach going to mesh with your offensive coordinator? Right. The big thing when Joe Rudolph was hired was like, oh my God, we got Joe Rudolph. That's a great offensive line coach hire. And he just didn't mesh at all with what Bowen wanted to run. Just didn't work. It's not that Rudolph can't coach. He's coaching incredible offensive lines at Notre Dame, and he's coached at Wisconsin. He's doing just fine for himself. It's not that Rudolph can't coach. It just wasn't a great fit. So my question now is, does Matt Moore fit with Montgomery? Montgomery again it was kind of like an off-cycle hire, right? Moore was brought in first, and now you're bringing in Montgomery, and are they going to mesh? There are so many questions about everything else. That is the first question I have is your offensive line coach and your OC, is that going to be a good marriage? That's the first question I have, just because of past history with this coaching staff. There are too many questions about everything else, Rick, to your point. The one thing I think we can count on is there is enough talent in the running back room where there should be enough guys in there to make some plays. Okay, Bashal Tootin's gone. That is a really tough guy to replace. Out of the handful of running backs that are going to get carries this year, can you make up for it and be like one Bashal Tootin or one plus out of the guys you have? That is the end goal. Not having to run Kyron Drones more than you have to. It's part of his game. He's at his best when he's running and throwing. Like we know all this stuff, but the entire season hinges on him being healthy. So you'd prefer not to run him more than you have to. Handful of design quarterback runs and just have the threat of him running, but like, please don't have him be the leading ball carrier. Right.
Yeah.
So I think there's enough talent in the running back room where that's not going to be a thing. So I think that's a positive. Offensive line's a question. There are some guys there. Certainly some players. We'll see how that all comes together. The receiving core is almost entirely brand new. We kind of know what Aiden Green is at this point. We know Benji Gosnell and what he can do when he's healthy at tight end. Those are the knowns. The unknowns, pretty much everybody else. Like Takai Heath, Is he going to? It seems like he's come on late in camp as he's gotten healthier. Is he going to have a huge role? We'll see. Is Cam Seldon like making that switch to running back to receiver? Like, is that going to pan out? Like, there are a lot of questions there in the receiving core where, like, I see people making predictions about the season and what this team's going to be, what's not going to be. And to be honest with you, it's hard to argue one way or the other and be like, you're right, you're wrong, you're right, I mean, it's too much new, right? There's just too much new on offense and defense. But particularly on the offensive side, I like Montgomery. Obviously, I like Drones when he's healthy, and I like the running back room. Can the offensive line be a little bit better than last year? Especially in pass protection, right? This team ran the ball pretty well last year when it committed to it, right? So can you keep that going? And can you protect Drones a little bit better as a passer? Those are the questions I have. And then hopefully you find some guys in the receiving room that can consistently contribute. There has to be at least 2 guys out of like the 17 receivers that are a possibility. There have to be at least 2 guys that you can rely on a consistent basis. And Benji Gosnell needs to stay healthy for an entire season and play a role in the passing game. Montgomery's used tight ends a lot in the past. It's been part of his offense at Tulsa. It's been part of his offenses at Auburn. Baylor a little less so, but they did use tight end. Like, Gosnell needs to be healthy for an entire year now. Like, we're getting to a point where it's time for him to play some significant snaps here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Mike, I mean, you pretty much hit the nail on the head with almost exactly everything I wanted to say there. But I'll break it down to a couple theses, right? For the optimistic side of things, the first thesis that has to be true is that Kyron Drones seemingly declining last year was purely a result of an injury that was greater than anyone knew, and he was significantly inhibited as a player, and that, the Kyron Drones that you thought he could be, the Kyron Drones that had a lot of people in our audience betting on long shot Heisman odds and stuff like that, that potential Kyron Drones, or 80% of it still exists out there, and that's what we're going to see. On the running back point, Mike, I mean, yeah, there's no replacing Bashal Tubin, but with guys from Bowling Green and grad transfers from Coastal Carolina, and apparently the guy who looks to be the premier back could always be a camp myth. Again, we'll find out from D2 Missouri Western University or whatever the heck it was. Can that combination give you enough? Because again, it's like Moneyball. We're not going to find another Giambi, but we're going to try to recreate him in the aggregate. And can, in the aggregate, this running back room provide enough where the offense stays multiple? Because at the end of the day, even in Kyron Drones' peaks, right? A lot of the time, if you take away the run, he operates best as a triple threat, right? He could pass it. We could hand the ball off to this dude who's about to get drafted into the NFL. He can take it himself. But if Virginia Tech just has a, Malachi Thomas 1.5 yards per rush running game, then it's over. It's over before it started. So can you get enough out of these new guys to get you there and to keep the offense multiple? It has to happen. I actually have decent confidence it will. Your third thesis, to Mike's point, Ron Crook and Bowen just never had it together. That offensive line was less than the sum of its parts. And that not just the addition of Matt Moore and the new talent that came in there, but the change in the strength of conditioning program, will take guys like Johnny Garrett and Laith Ganem to that next level where they can be plus ACC offensive linemen. And it's obviously very possible. Offensive linemen don't tend to be at their best, their first or second year of school, despite, how Christian Darrisaw, what he showed us, but that's not normal. Players do tend to develop over time in college. We haven't seen as much of it in the COVID era because everyone stayed for 10 years. That's what Virginia Tech needs, right? A big improvement on that end. And then from there, it's like, who's going to step up, right? Who's going to step up? Plus those other things to get you to the overall thesis that having a little more maturity and experience in the guy running the offensive operation and calling the plays in games can get more with less here. To Mike's point again, like no one can sit here and definitively tell you yes. As we've learned in the many offensive season previews, what have you, that we've done in the past, it always does tend to seem like the more big outstanding questions that have to be true that can't be answered going into the season that you have, the less likely that, just like a parlay in betting, that they all hit and you get the result you're looking for. But it's also fair to say that in the nature of college football today, like, we're not the only team dealing with this. So we're going to find out, and we're going to find out with a new offense with new players that has no tape on it in week 1.
Yeah, and we're going to find out about this defense too, which is even more so a new unit. And just kind of the last thing before we start getting to these picks, I'm in full wait and see mode on this defense. I have no idea what to expect from Sam Seifkis. I have no idea what to expect from all these defensive linemen that they were able to bring in to try and replace APR. I don't know what kind of growth we're going to see out of Caleb Woodson. There's a reason why he was my most important player on the defensive preview. And then as far as the secondary goes, I'm not sure what that unit's going to look like. Surely on against South Carolina, but even 3 weeks into the season, I think there's some chances that there's some shuffling back there. So I don't know if you guys have any big thoughts on this defense, but for me, I'm kind of at a loss, and I'm just kind of waiting to see some glimpses. And it'll be a tough test, obviously, against South Carolina week 1, going up against one of the, I'll put it this way, one of the most hyped quarterbacks in the country in Lenore Sellers. So until I can actually get eyes on this defense, I really don't know what to expect.
Yeah, the secondary, they brought in enough guys. This is kind of like you brought enough guys, like a few of them have to hit.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, I think they'll find some guys in the secondary amidst all the transfers. People get carried away. Again, I hate to bring up the social media mob. People get carried away. Like they see Mansour Delane have a bad game and they're like, yeah, get him out of here. Until like you're running unproven guys out there. You know what I mean? Like
he would start this year at corner.
He would.
Yep.
Like,
yeah,
he would. Like that's the thing, right? Like, love Dante, love it. We'll see what Thomas Williams brings to the table with more consistent snaps. Like, love them. Let's see what they do over a full season, right? Really like what I've seen out of them so far in a pinch, but like Delane having a couple bad games, it's like, people saying get him out of here. I think, it's crazy. They're going to miss Dorian Strong. Like,
yeah.
It's a lot of snaps you're replacing on defense, guys. Like you two of you know this. A lot of snaps are replaced defensively in that secondary. Linebacking core, we'll see. I'm hoping that, the old defensive coordinator not being able to coach linebackers effectively, I hope that's fixed a little bit. We'll see what Xavier DB is able to do and how he meshes with Seifkis. That's another question I have. But, can the linebackers be a little bit better coached and, figure it out between the ears with Jaden Keller when it's good, it's good.
Hold on. There we go. Chris G.
There it is.
JK is still starting week 3. The defense will have a long year, especially when it comes to stopping the run. Jaden Keller's caught a lot of heat on this show.
Yeah.
Most of it deserved, I think.
Yeah, I don't think we've thrown any cheap shots that I won't say that for sure. I talk enough on the show every year. I'm sure I've said something stupid along the way.
Somebody's got to go find that now after this episode.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a clip out there somewhere. Defensive line, I'm a little more concerned about. It's like, we'll see. I'm worried about depth at linebacker because I don't know how many guys behind the top two of Woods, the presumed top two of Woodson and Keller. I don't know what they're going to be. And defensive line, I feel pretty good about the depth on the interior defensive line. I think there are a few more questions on the edges and trying to replace APR. Again, they're throwing a lot of guys at the problem of replacing one of the best pass rushers in school history, because that's like no exaggeration. That's what he was in his short time in Blacksburg. So they're throwing a lot of bodies at the problem. It's just, again, you got to have a couple of them hit. So I have as many questions about the defense as I do about the offense. The thing that gives me a little bit more comfort with the defense is that there's a lot of talent in the secondary, a lot of guys that have played meaningful snaps elsewhere. And there's a lot of experience that you're bringing, not necessarily experience in Blacksburg, obviously, but a lot of starting experience at the FBS level. And I think that means something. I think with a changing defensive scheme where you're probably going to have, we think, we'll see, but we think there's going to be 5 defensive backs on the field more often than not in Seifkis's defense. And I think if that's the case with everybody they brought in, there's just a level of confidence there I don't have with the offense. Offensive line was a question mark last year. You totally turned it over. Receiving core, it's all new faces. Feel okay about drones, but defense, it's like, all right, well, there's a ton of experience in the secondary. There's experience at linebacker. Woodson's still got a lot of promise and a lot of growing to do, I think. And Keller, we've seen the highs and the lows. Can he just be a little bit more consistent? For me, I think there's less question. It's less questions on defense for me, even with a coordinator who's less experienced relative to Philip Montgomery, So I feel a little bit better about the defense than the offense right now, like heading into the year. But, again, it's all on paper, so we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, essentially to echo a lot of what you said there. Last year's defense obviously had a lot of plus players, but in a lot of situations, they showed to be as strong as their weakest link. So the plan is to throw shit at the wall and hope it sticks. And it seems like at a lot of these positions, corner, defensive backs, generally speaking, giving you a little more confidence, maybe that falls into place. Defensive line, you're losing a lot. You're losing 2 NFL draftees. Can we get to the point where, a guy can emerge as a plus there? Or are we going to be trying to skate and by on, just above replacement level all season long? Because, football's a heck of a lot tougher without a serious threat for a pass rush. How does that play out? A lot of question marks there. You hope that you can see better linebacker play. It's been a long time since we've seen above average linebacker play. You could probably go back to Rayshard Ashby to say for that one season when he was a serious stud. I don't think anyone's expecting anything of even that level this season, but can it not be a huge hindrance? Can we not?
I had 18.5 tackles that one year and then gained like 20 pounds.
Yeah,
it was not
COVID,
the same.
COVID was not good to our friend Rayshard there. But either way, right? It's where is the biggest weakness going to be? And how big will that weakness be? And is it something that as we preview these games all throughout the season, we're going to constantly have to say, does, Old Dominion or NC State or Georgia Tech or whoever have the weapon that puts them in a great position to expose this? I don't know. We don't know what that weakness is. We don't know whether that weakness will really exist. And I have a feeling we'll probably find out real soon. If there is one, it tends to show its face in a a pretty bold way early on. But at a minimum, I could hope that, a team with a, 15th out of 17th ranked quarterback in their conference can't come in and run the same play, 10 times in 2 quarters, and we won't be able to figure out how to stop it. If we can get past that, we could be golden.
Yeah, that would certainly be nice. Any last words before we start getting into pick these games?
We're going to find out early about the trenches on both sides of the ball. There are 2 games early on, obviously with South Carolina and Vanderbilt, where you're going to be tested in the trenches on both sides of the ball, where those are the biggest questions for me on the entire team is offensive line, defensive line. So it's kind of, we'll have some answers soon, some clarity, I think. And we'll see, we'll see whenever we record the Sunday night, Monday rolls around. I don't know when we'll record the recap. I don't know. Andrew, are you going to the game? Are you going to the opener?
I will be there.
Okay. So maybe Monday, but when we record the recap, we'll see how we all feel. But I'm going to try to get a sense of how we're going to fare in the trenches without overreacting, given the team we're going up against in the opener and the upside that they have and how they've recruited. So I'm trying to take that it's kind of like a grain of salt game for me. So we'll see. More data points will give us the information we need, but it'll be interesting early. You're thrown to the fire early, so we'll get into the schedule here.
Yeah, the data points to come for sure. On the topic of the trenches, it's not just, how do these new groups fare, but how deep are these new groups? When it comes to offensive line, even if it looks good, are you one injury away from it all falling apart? Or are guys like Jaden Muskrat, Brody Meadows, Tommy Ricard, the like, going to be able to step in a pinch, which it's football. It almost inevitably has to happen. Mm-hmm. Or is that going to be like the downfall of the entire season if we're forced to turn to any of those guys long term? Or can do you have the depth where you can go in and spell guys? A lot of possibilities there. Same thing on the defensive line, right? You might not have the big names like Peebles or APR, and I think we'd all be incredibly surprised if anyone got even to 80% of that level. But do you have the depth that some of these defensive line recruits have come along, plus the guys that you've added in the portal, where it's going to be, a deep group, and you can get these guys rest and, not necessarily have to worry about those big fellas, wearing themselves out all throughout the games and throughout the season, of course. So I think that depth in the trenches is going to be, just as important, if not more important, especially as you get into the slog of the season.
For sure. And like Caleb Fields mentioned in the comments, Kamari Copeland and Ben Bell would go a long way in solidifying this defensive line and trying to figure out how Virginia Tech is going to be able to get some pass rush and slow down some opposing running games. But let's go ahead and get into these picks before we do that. So last year we brought on Izzy Post Ruland to do some photography for us. She did an incredible job and has helped us out with all of our thumbnails and all of that stuff, and also the project that we're going to unveil here at the end of the episode. But let's go ahead and bring Izzy on. Izzy, thank you for joining us. If I can actually get her included. And she's not showing. There we go.
There we go.
She is.
Hey.
So for those of you who don't know Izzy, who's a friend of the pod, I've known Izzy since college. Same with Andrew. Same with Mike. Izzy's a Hokie, obviously. Lives in the area. Has been going to games for a very, very long time. Izzy, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming, and excited to get these picks going.
Yeah, Andrew, you were joking earlier about wearing the number 7. I've got number 11 back here because this is year 11 for me covering this team on the sidelines, and I'm super happy for you guys nabbing me out of the transfer portal and being here with you guys this year.
The conveniently timed number references are probably a lot easier when you live with Clark Ruland.
Don't worry about what's not in the frame here.
Yeah, that's only like a quarter of what the Rulands have at their house, which is just an absurd collection.
He may or may not have spent an hour pre-pod making sure that this was looking pretty good.
The right stuff. Yeah.
The right
stuff in
combo.
the frame. Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and get into these picks. I'm going to go from my left to right here on the screen, and then I'll wrap it up for each game. Week 1, Andrew, Aflac kickoff, South Carolina, Tech's wearing orange unis.
Yeah, I mean, the temptation is certainly there, just based on the pure, like, oh, we can basically come out and do what Vanderbilt did to us last year with all new players and a new scheme. But I think that SEC money will lead to SEC level talent that probably will just be too much for the Hokies there. So hope I'm wrong, obviously, but I have a feeling this one's going to go to South Carolina.
I am incredibly pessimistic about this game. Probably the most pessimistic of all of us sitting here about this. I do not see it. I would love to be wrong. The spread is moving in Tech's direction.
Yeah.
Okay. Like sounds good to me. I mean, I'm open, very open to being wrong. It's a lot of questions on defense. First time defensive coordinator trying to stop Sellers. I just have that's a tough ask. South Carolina did replace a lot in the trenches. We'll get into it in the preview. They're replacing some talent there as well, especially on the defensive side of the ball. But they got a lot of SEC players, like legitimate, like very good recruits, and I think it's a lot to ask for with so many new pieces on the Tech side in the opener. So South Carolina, that's my pick there.
Yeah, Virginia Tech does not have the greatest track record when it comes to season openers at neutral site locations in recent history. So you factor that in. You factor in the storyline with this ranked SEC opponent, and like you said earlier, Mike, like we really are just in a wait and see. We really haven't had a good look at this team with all of these new guys coming in. So I don't really think that we're going to be coming out the gun hot to start the season. I think it's going to be a little bit of a slow warm up. So South Carolina is going to take this one for me as well.
I've been kind of bearish on the Gamecocks this offseason. I think they're overhyped. I specifically think Lenore Sellers is overhyped. Give me South Carolina. I wish I was wrong, and hopefully I will be. But one thing I will say about this game, I'm very interested to see how chippy it gets. I have a feeling that this game is going to mean a lot to each of these coaching staffs, and I think that message will translate in practice before this game. So I'm very curious to see how this first quarter goes, and if teams really start getting overly physical. Week 2, Andrew, it's the dreaded rematch with the Anchors, the guys who still can't finish their stadium. It's Vanderbilt. How you feeling?
Ricky, we've been doing this pod for a long time, and we've picked a lot of non-conference Power 5 games. And fun fact, anyone who picked Tech in those games is winless. The 0% chance of being right on that one in the past. So until that trend is bucked, I will continue to ride it. I'm going to say that Vanderbilt comes into Tech under the lights and wins, and the fireworks on this podcast the day after will be crazy. Very open to being wrong on that one, especially because I'm going to that one too, and that would be a brutal 2 weeks of traveling if that ends up being the case. But I'm prepared to be pleasantly surprised if that is not the case.
I think everybody looked at Vanderbilt last year and they were like, "Oh my God, that opener was such a disaster." They beat Alabama. Like they lost some dumb ones too, guys. Like they're not that good. This is making me crazy. Point well taken on the non-conference thing, Andrew. Flip side is that has to end at some point. Like it has to end.
Does
like,
it? Does it, Mike?
I did just get Tommy Fleetwood to win right yesterday.
It has to end.
Bad streaks do end.
Bad streaks do end. I think it ends in week 2. I think Tech beats Vanderbilt. It's like the boogeyman under the bed or something. Like this is crazy. Pavia's fine. He's bounced around for a reason. Like he is the SEC version of Thomas Castellanos. It's the same in terms of how he
Michael.
talks relative to how good he is. Pavia's fine. He's a fine quarterback.
I didn't know you thought
Um,
Thomas Castellanos was fine.
This is I don't.
Noted
this
TC
is-
hater Michael
I do
McDaniel.
not. I do
Save
not.
that one for the FSU preview,
I was
guys.
gonna say Florida State's gonna be quite bad. Yeah. I think Tech beats Vanderbilt. I think the non-conference P5 P4 streak ends. I think Tech beats Vanderbilt in week 2 under the lights. I think Pry gets a much needed win under his belt. I am more optimistic about that game than I was maybe earlier in the offseason, because then I just looked at Vanderbilt's roster and their turnover. I'm like, what are we doing here? Like, Tech's got a lot of questions, but this is not an impossible game. I'm very interested to see the spread.
Yeah.
No.
Diego Pavia, when he's off, he's off. But when he's on, he's on. And
sometimes he's Todd Reesing Jr.
And
who
sometimes, yes, I was
reportedly
waiting
is
for you to pull up that comment from G over there. But like you said, Mike, every bad streak must end, but it's not happening this year. So I have Vanderbilt taking this one.
Yeah, Mike, Virginia Tech hasn't won a non-con game at home since 2009.
It's been a while.
And it will continue to be a while. Give me Vanderbilt, unfortunately. So we're all clear, Andrew, myself, and Izzy all have us going 0-2 to start. Man, the engagement on that episode will be a lot if that's the case. We don't need to spend too much time on the next two, hopefully, Andrew.
Yeah, I'll say we can beat ODU, hopefully. I mean, we got all kinds of problems if that one is even up in the air going in.
Yeah, Tech will beat ODU. Pry won't rub it in Ricky Ronnie's face. Pause. But sorry, but he won't run up the score or anything like that, because they're probably going to be coaching together the next stop. So,
ooh,
there's always a trap game this season, and my gut tells me that this could be our trap game, but that really depends.
Oh, no.
Tell me I'm wrong, Mike, but you can't tell me I'm wrong. So that proves my point right there. However, I think if we start 0-2, we're going to need to get it together, and ODU is where we're going to get it together. So I have this one as a win as well.
That make me nervous.
The Monarch roster, it's not great.
It's really bad.
And Ricky Ronnie is certainly on the hot seat. But bold of you, Michael McDaniel, to assume that Ricky Ronnie will be Virginia Tech's offensive coordinator next year.
Oh, okay. There it is. Okay.
But yeah, give me Tech. Tech doesn't lose to ODU at home. If this game was in Norfolk, I'd feel a little bit differently. Or can we just go clean slate against Wofford here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Could be a trap game.
Andrew,
Or take my line, Andrew.
I will say the first time we played Wofford, I get it was like game 2 or whatever it was of the Brent Pry regime. That game was really ugly. So,
well, you know what? If this season's not going to go particularly well, then maybe that one will also be ugly.
Don't give me the Furman. Was that 2019?
Ooh,
trailing
in the third
Poor
quarter.
Tim Thomas was losing it.
He was
in the press box. Oh,
that was an all-timer.
Poor
Was an
Timothy.
all-timer. Yeah.
Now we started to get to the interesting part of the schedule, the conference slate. Andrew, Virginia Tech, NC State. Your thoughts?
Whew. Tough one here. First of all, NC State and Virginia Tech probably the way that the teams have kind of shaken out over the course of the last few years, it's like NC State has gotten the breaks in the places where Virginia Tech is not. I feel like they've always come in with moderately equal expectations, and this year is no different. They're right next to each other in the ACC preseason poll. I'm going to give it to the Wolfpack at home in this one. This falls in my category of the should-be toss-up games, and I don't think Virginia Tech's taken all of them, so I chose NC State to win this one.
Yeah, tough to go into Raleigh. If this is a night game, makes it even tougher. If Virginia Tech is off to a 3-1 start and NC State has a decent start to the year, maybe that is a like ACC network 7:30 kick or something.
More money.
Even if it's not, yeah, very true. Very good for the revenue sharing. It's tough to go to Carter Finley Stadium, one of the more underrated venues in the ACC. Very loud there, from what I've heard. I've not been to Carter Finley. Everything everybody has said about it, though, is that it's very loud. It's especially difficult to go there at night. NC State's got a fan base a lot like Virginia Tech, in my opinion. Like, very proud fan base, very supportive of their school. That is going to be a very tough game for Virginia Tech to win. NC State's got a lot of questions, as many questions as Virginia Tech. Just more stability on the coaching staff there, obviously, with Doran. I like NC State. Just too much on the road. That's going to be a really tough environment, I think.
Yeah, I think this is one of my toss-up games as well. I think this is the game, excluding the fact that we're starting with 2 SEC schools. This is the game where the trenches are really going to be tests. NC State has a really tough linebacker core. They also have that Charlie Wiles defensive line that we're all very well aware of. So I have this one as a toss-up, but I don't quite think we're going to pull through on this one because of that Carter Finley atmosphere. So I have this one going to NC State.
Yeah, this one was, for me, it comes almost exclusively to the fact that I think Dave Doran's a better head coach than Brent Pry. That's kind of where I'm at on this one. NC State's roster is not all that great. They've got 2 new coordinators. Give me Dave Doran. Andrew, Wake Forest. Virginia Tech returns home to face the Steamin' Deeks.
Yeah, I mean, this is in the potentially ugly scenario, going to be like a very much must-win game. I mean, if my prediction to this point is true, right, which is you are 2-3 and you've lost all the games against teams that the fan base would say matter, you can't lose to Wake Forest at home at this point. I mean, luckily for Virginia Tech, we talk all about money and the impact that it's having on college sports, but Wake Forest is very ill positioned for this current model. I'll tell you that much. They had a lot of success redshirting, keeping guys around for 5-6 years, letting them peak as they were older, growing together in the program. Now it's turned into more of a farm system. Now, if we can't stop the run, still could have some issues. Claiborne's a pretty good back there, but I'm going to take Virginia Tech to win this one.
Izzy, this is my trap game. Andrew, you just said it. Damon Claiborne's one of the best running backs in the ACC, and Wake has some questions up front. I will say that they're replacing a lot on the offensive line. I think it's like 2 or 3 multi-year starters they're replacing, which at Wake Forest is not an easy task. Obviously, you're breaking in a first-year head coach in Jake Dickert. I thought that was a really interesting hire coming across the country. Claiborne's really good. If Virginia Tech is struggling at defensive line and linebacker, obviously we're going to know by this point in the season what those 2 groups are. This could be a tough one, especially if you get out of the gates hot and you're looking forward to going to Georgia Tech, who should be pretty good this year, the following week on the road. This is a game that could potentially sneak up on you. I think it will have Virginia Tech's attention if they kind of have a mediocre start, which all of us have said. To this point, I have Virginia Tech at 3-2. You guys have them, I think, at 2-3. Like, this game should have everybody's full attention, even though it is Wake Forest. But they'll sneak up on you if you go in there lackadaisical. I like Virginia Tech here at home. I think they have too much talent relative to Wake Forest, but this is this is my trap game spot. There aren't a ton of them on the schedule. This is one of them.
I won't take trap game on this one since I already used it, but I think this game is going to be a chess match. You've got the speed of the Hokies, the scheme of Wake, the RPO, which we kind of struggle up against recently. So this one's really going to be kind of a tit for tat, and who's going to manage it better. I think this is really going to come down to game management on this game, but I do think Virginia Tech is going to be almost in a do or die situation, and I think they're going to find a way to pull out a win. I think this is the one where you get what you get and you do with what you have, and I think this is where it's going to finally start working out.
Give me Virginia Tech. Wake is more of an unknown than Virginia Tech is. I don't know that anyone knows what to expect from Wake. They don't have any standout returners from last year. I'll take the Hokies in this one. Mike mentioned Georgia Tech might be pretty good this year. although I have a thought on that in a moment. Andrew, thoughts on the Hokies going to Atlanta?
I had to take some sort of optimistic viewpoint in my in my picks, and I do think that just when the going gets rough at the beginning, that Virginia Tech's going to find a way to pull one off. Georgia Tech is the place where I made that pick. So it is the least likely of the toss-up games. Maybe it won't even seem like a toss-up game by the time it rolls around, but I have the Hokies taking this one on the road. I just had a pure, we're going to win one that we're not supposed to.
Yeah, and Georgia Tech, they lose games they're not supposed to. For as much as that staff plays up to competition, they also, have coached down to competition. And I think this is from a skill talent standpoint, I don't think Virginia Tech is like leaps and bounds worse from a roster standpoint than Georgia Tech. I think Georgia Tech's been better coached over the last few years. It was a lot like Ricky's NC State point a few minutes ago. Haynes King's really good. If he's healthy this point of the year, that's going to be a problem. Jamal Haynes, very good running back. The defense has been very up and down for Georgia Tech. So, this is you're replacing a coordinator again. This is something they've had to do now a couple times under Brent Key, not because of like poor performance, but because, promising coordinators have left for other jobs. Defense is a little bit of an unknown for me with Georgia Tech. I think Virginia Tech can hang here. The Haynes King, Jamal Haynes and Haynes backfield combination, I think is going to be tough. I think Virginia Tech loses on the road here to Georgia Tech. Close game. If this flips in Virginia Tech's direction, this one and the Vanderbilt game are like two of the most important games on the schedule, in my opinion. You can maybe couple NC State in there as well if you want like a third team to throw in that hat. Those are the three games, in my opinion, that turn the entire season. If you go 3-0 there, you can win 8 games, maybe 9. If you go 0-3 there, then you're really battling to make a bowl game. I think it's probably going to be somewhere in the middle. So I think Virginia Tech loses this game, Georgia Tech.
Yeah, I don't see this one coming out. This is a toss-up game, but again, at this point on August 25th at 11:07 p.m., I don't see the Hokies taking this one. Give me the Ramblin' Wreck.
3 things I thought of when thinking about Georgia Tech, and I'll try and make them fast. Mike, you mentioned one of them. Is Haynes King going to play in this game? No clue, right? Outside of Jamal Haynes, I have no idea what this Georgia Tech supporting cast is going to look like and if they're going to be any good.
Lost their best receiver.
Yeah, and I think the third point is kind of the most important one and maybe the most hot take that you'll get tonight. How much of this hype surrounding Georgia Tech is because of the Georgia game last year?
A lot of it.
Yeah. Give me Georgia Tech to win. Sorry.
With that said,
I don't see it.
The hype, by the way, in all likelihood, if Georgia Tech is a semblance of how good we think they will be, will certainly be there in mid-October. They'll be favored to win. Probably. Actually, I'd have to look at the spread to see what people think they're going to do against Colorado. But Wake Forest, Temple, Gardner-Webb. I mean, the only loss there, you got Clemson at home. The hype train for Georgia Tech could be very real.
They are a short favorite against Colorado. The only reason why I'm looking at Georgia Tech, I'm like, they're a short favorite against Colorado that's replacing literally everybody. I think they're like a 3 or 4 point favorite. And I think with the way people are talking about Georgia Tech, right, wrong, and different, they should be able to handle Colorado, who's replacing everybody, with what they're bringing back. That's my opinion on it.
Does the hype surrounding Georgia Tech this year feel at all similar to you folks?
Very.
It feels kind of like something we felt last year with this team.
Yep.
How'd that turn out? Andrew, Friday night game, the Cal Golden Bears, the woke algorithm makes the trip to Blacksburg.
Can't wait. If there is a game I have had circled on my calendar since the end of last season, it's this one, because what a ridiculous game to be happening. Friday night, under the lights, Lane Stadium in Blacksburg, Virginia, and the California Golden Bears are rolling into town. Do we know much about Cal? No, we don't know much about any of these teams really. But it seems Cal has lost everyone that was a major contributor offensively. They did bring in a name that some might remember, Brian Harsin, going to be running the offense. I got to pick the Hokies here. That we could be reaching all kinds of new lows if I'm wrong on this one. But yeah, give me the Hokies in a game that everyone's invited to my tailgate for.
Yeah, I mean, Cal's got to play this game in what's essentially like late lunch, early dinner time out west. Going to Blacksburg on a Friday night. I don't know if Cal has a short week leading up to this. I don't remember. Obviously, Tech's coming off a bye here. Better win this game, Brent Pry. You better win this one. This is one of those, if you lose, it could get you fired games. You got to win this one. Cal maybe gets 5 wins this year. So, like, if you're losing to that Cal team, it's one of those deals where it's like, what does it say about your program? I got Tech here.
There's a lot of hype out west around Jaden Ott, their running back right now. He has the potential to be kind of like our Bayshall Tootin and just be that guy. But if we can contain him, or if it ends up just being hype, then I think we have a really good shot because it is just one guy we have to contain. So I do have Cal winning this one. But I really want to see what Ott can do and if the hype is really what it says it's going to be.
Ott said Oklahoma, right?
Ott is with Oklahoma.
Is he?
Yeah, I thought
that's what I meant by all the offensive contributors being gone. If he was there, I'd pick Cal.
Then my notes are old, but I still have Cal winning this, or us winning this.
Which is an odd note for Jaden Ott because apparently he's third on that depth chart for the Sooners. Which, goddamn, if he was starting in Cal and he's third on the depth chart at Oklahoma, which is no offensive juggernaut, by the way.
Used to be.
Yeah.
Used to be. Now they got Jaden Ott, so maybe Oklahoma's got it.
Mike, I'm with you. Mendoza gone, Ott gone. Nobody's buying into Cal this year. It seems like there's a kind of an issue over there in Berkeley with folks not happy that Ron Rivera is running the show and kind of being this overarching general manager. I have no faith in Cal being able to win this game. You're right, though. If Virginia Tech does find a way to punt this, that's one way to erase any good standing you may have left as a coaching staff if Virginia Tech finds a way to lose. So give me the Hokies. I don't think it's going to be too much of an issue. Hopefully. We'll see. Road trip, Andrew, to Louisville, another kind of dark horse ACC favorite, sort of, kind of, depending on where you look.
Yeah, I mean, the optimism heading into year 3 with Jeff Brom is, I mean, it's not like overwhelming, but you'd think they are probably going to put together a good team. Again, my expectations for Virginia Tech have been shown as moderate, and I don't think this is one that they're stealing on the road, and I'll leave it at that.
Nope, Louisville.
I think this one's going to be a shootout, and we're not winning the shootout. Louisville.
Yeah, it does feel shootouty.
Yeah, I feel a lot about this game that I felt about the NC State game. Give me Brom over Pry just about any day of the week. One interesting point about the Cards, I don't know if Miller Moss is going to be any good, but he does kind of feel like the same dude that they've had the last several years, whether it's Plummer or Shuck. It feels like they brought in the same guy, essentially. So Isaac Brown's a stud, but I don't know. I'll take Louisville mostly because I trust Brom to be able to get the job done. A game that I will be at on the road, Izzy will also be there. This will be the trip to Tallahassee. Andrew.
This is a game that I would probably mark as most likely to change my mind. If Virginia Tech has a good showing in weeks 1 and 2 against South Carolina and Vanderbilt, and that could still be good showings in a split there, depending on what Florida State does on the other side. This is my most likely candidate to flip. Right now, I'm taking Florida State, but a competitive Virginia Tech in September and October not only means I might change my pick, but it might change my travel plans too. I might have to go down there with you, but we're going to pump the brakes on that until we see how things are shaping out.
Talked about those 3 toss-up games earlier, right? With Vanderbilt, NC State, the Georgia Tech game. Like Andrew just mentioned, this could be added to the list here later in the year. If things bottom out for Florida State, is Norvell coaching this game? And that's a question I have. I don't know how this is going to go for Florida State. It'll be better than last year. I mean, if it's not, he certainly won't be coaching this game. It should be better than last year. New stadium, Florida State. They reduced the capacity like slightly, but new renovations. I went down there, whatever it was, 7 years ago now, for that opener. It was so sick. Like the atmosphere there is unbelievable. Bar scene's unreal. It is a road venue you have to go to. And Grayson put that on the screen, baby. Tallahassee, without a doubt, the most fun I've ever had in an away game. You got to go. I absolutely agree. It is the most fun I've had at an away game as well. I was at the Horseshoe for Ohio State. Maybe not. But I mean, two wins, right? 2 wins on the road. Give me Florida State right now. But
that was the non-conference Power 5 win, Mike. But I will note here, and now that I'm looking at it, by the time this game comes along, Florida State will already have played, and they open with on Saturday.
Oh, damn you, Andrew. You stole my point.
Oh, okay. Okay, then I'll let you have it.
Go ahead.
Time out.
Go ahead.
No.
Rattle them off.
They'll have already played Alabama, Miami, Pitt, and then we are sandwiched between Clemson with no bye week, NC State to follow, and then Florida after that. So even if things are going kind of well, imagine a good possible case scenario for Florida State, right? And maybe they're trying to squeeze into the ACC championship. Fringe playoff doesn't seem likely, but possible. Could very much see us being on the hangover of a Clemson game, overlooked to the 2 games ahead. And yeah, to the other side, the negative perspective, this season could be over before it started. Players quitting on the coach. Coach might not even be there.
Watch, baby.
Lots of variables to look at. You could spin it positively for Virginia Tech either way, but of course, we're gonna have to see what happens with Virginia Tech as well.
Mike, we all know you picked Florida State to win this because you're now a Tommy Castellanos fan.
I hate him so much. I'm just not.
Just to put that on the record.
Yes.
But I think you're right, Andrew. Now, Florida State is kind of in a similar boat as we are in the fact that they got a lot of new guys in. They have new coordinators. There's a lot of unknowns around this team. So I think it's late in the season. It's November. We're going to have a better idea the closer we get to this game. And I have this one as a toss-up as well. But I think this is the game that we should not win. So I think we're going to take this one down at Doak Campbell in Tallahassee.
Andrew, you picked a win, right?
No, I had Florida State, but I said I might change my mind if we're any good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Same with me.
So Andrew stole my thunder a bit here, but there's a very good shot that Florida State loses Bama, Miami, and Clemson. And for a program like Florida State, you might as well quit playing at that point. The other note I had here, which Izzy also mentioned, but I want to read out what I wrote word for word because Mike will appreciate this. The note says, Castellanos starting? LOL. Yeah, get out of here. Virginia Tech's going to win this game. I don't know what the hell happened to Florida State, but the second they got left out of the playoff, Mike Norvell forgot how to coach. So I think the Hokies take this one, which will be a huge win, and they're going to need it because at this point in the year, they're going to be backs against the wall for bowl eligibility as far as I'm predicting. So this one will be a bit of a shot in the arm for the fan base. And it'll quickly be eroded probably the next week. Andrew, Virginia Tech playing Miami.
I'm going to take Miami in this one.
Yeah, I think Miami is going to be in Charlotte because there just has to be another team, right, that steps up and takes this, second place in the ACC. I think Clemson is just so far and away the best team in the league this year. Like, there has to be somebody else. I think there's
SMU?
a high enough there, tougher schedule, replacing a lot. I think there's just there's a defined like high floor with Miami just because their offensive lines under Cristobal are always going to be good. If Carson Beck's elbow is right, he's not going to be Cam Ward, but
Yes.
he'll be good enough as long as he's healthy. I really like what they did bring in the Minnesota defensive coordinator. Heatherman, is that his name? I can't remember, something like
I can't
that.
remember it either.
Yeah,
But I had the same note about the DC.
A good hire. So we'll see how it all comes together. And I like Miami's always talented. They always got enough players. They got a lot of good players. So yeah, I just I do not see it this year. Maybe it'll be really cold in late. I mean, I know it'll be cold. It'll be late November. Maybe that swings things in a tight game if you can get to that point. But I think Miami's too good this year. So give me Canes.
Yeah, give me Miami. We can't seem to shake this Miami junk off our back. So yeah, give me the Canes.
Miami's season will depend entirely on if this defense cannot absolutely suck like they did last year. I mean, they completely wasted one of the best quarterback performances they've ever had in a Miami uniform. And it's important to note that Carson Beck, even when he's healthy, is not Cam Ward, not the same guy. So if they want to have any level of success this year, this defense is going to have to figure out a way to not have the offense have to score 50 every week. Carson Beck is not inevitable, kind of like Cam Ward was last year. I'll take Miami nonetheless. I do think this is a tough one for Tech because, as you guys mentioned, the talent is almost always going to be on Miami's side of the ball. It's a matter of whether or not their coaching staff can get their head out of their ass and get their guys to focus, which has always been an issue for them. Nonetheless, I'll go ahead and take Miami. Commonwealth clash for the Commonwealth Cup, Andrew, on the road at the Charlottesville College for the Performing Arts.
There it is. Hang the banner, put it on a shirt.
Gotta stick to the bit.
Yep.
The bigger question here may be who's coaching this game for the Who's, but Andrew, go ahead and tell us who's going to win.
Or for Tech.
Yeah, I mean, certainly there's a lot that's going to happen between now and the Saturday after Thanksgiving, huh? But from where I stand today, UVA maybe a bit of a sleeper, maybe a little bit feisty. When the bar is low, it's easy to get a little bit high. But they had a good Porter class. Chandler Morris, I don't think they'll be as bad as they were last year. That's just my opinion.
I agree.
I'm going to take Tech. Tech always beats UVA. Again, if you've ever picked UVA on this show, you'd actually have been right one time. You'd have been right one time. But the other 6 times you would have been wrong. So we're going with Tech here. But again, so much dust is going to have to settle. You could have a resurgent UVA, or you could have if you don't have a resurgent UVA, you have in all likelihood, a UVA team being led by an interim coach. Same thing could be said for Tech. So talent on talent, I'll take the Hokies. But again, could be scary if one team has a lot more to play for than the other.
Yeah, and even if Tech has an interim coach, it hasn't really mattered in this particular matchup. It literally took UVA having a generational quarterback at their school to beat Virginia Tech, and they still almost didn't do it. Until UVA beats Virginia Tech more than once every 15 years, we just need to see it more often before I'm going to take Virginia Tech to lose this game. This is, again, out of principle. Take my fandom, allegiance, my alma mater completely out of it. If you're looking this objectively, it's like there's something in the water. UVA never beats Virginia Tech. So until that happens more consistently, I cannot, in good conscience, no matter what kind of season Virginia Tech is having, pick Virginia Tech to lose this game. So Hokies. That's 6-6 for me, by the way. We're going to a bowl game. We did it.
Road to the Military Bowl starts now, guys. Book it.
Tulane.
Here we go.
Tulane again with an interim coach.
Round 2.
Let's do it.
That being said, does this mean we're going to have a round 2 of a JC Price Commonwealth clash at UVA? That's my question going, stranger things have happened, Mike. Do I think that's going to happen? No. Do I want that to happen? Absolutely not. I want to be totally wrong here in my 6-6 prediction where the Hokies keep the Commonwealth Cup at home.
Yeah, so you guys mentioned Chandler Morris, and that's fine, but who the hell is he throwing the ball to? I have no idea. UVA's
Neither does
defense
he.
might what?
Neither does he.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. UVA's defense might be a tad better, even though they're losing Jonas Sanker. The only thing that I am in any way worried about with this game, and it's something that we saw in 21, obviously, that did end up being an issue. If Virginia Tech does quit later this year, if the season goes south and Virginia Tech does quit on whoever the hell is leading them at that point, I think UVA is good enough to beat Virginia Tech if they just roll the helmets out there. I don't think that's going to be the case. Give me the Hokies. I don't think it'll be a comfortable win. I'm not saying Virginia Tech's going to win this game by 3 touchdowns, but nah, you'd be a fool to bet against the Hokies on this. Can anyone guess what all of our predictions are?
6-6.
6-6.
And
Just
if you pick
fun
that in the
programming
previous
group for you.
season previews that we've done on this show, you're actually statistically more likely to have been right in the previous season exactly than wrong.
Yeah. Super,
David in the
super fun
comments.
program.
Dave in the comments has us going 8-4 though. If you want to pull up that comment, there
Hey,
you go.
David, whatever you're drinking tonight,
Maybe.
I would like to try it.
Maybe it requires Virginia Tech winning a few of the toss-ups. That's literally all it takes, and then not dropping some dumb ones. The problem is the toss-ups are the dumb ones. So it's not like you look at the schedule really realistically, right? Realistically, the dumb ones. Old Dominion. I can't count. I can't even bring Wofford into my brain for this. It's Old Dominion, it's Wake Forest, it's Cal, and it's UVA. Those are the 4 dumb ones. Wofford gets you fired. Losing the others might get you fired. Wofford gets you fired. So those are the 4 dumb ones. That's what I'm saying. The dumb ones, it's like, all right, well, you're going to be favored in a few of these. A lot of coin flip games this year.
There were so many 50-50 games that I literally went 50-50 on my 50. It was just, there's so many unknowns and there's just so many coin flips that it's really going to be, are we able to stay healthy? Are we meshing? And are we able to stay on?
Yeah. The other thing too, it's just too many. It's too many new, the thing for me, too many new faces, too many unknowns, tougher schedule, right? And that doesn't mean that Tech can't step up and win a few of these games that we predicted them to lose tonight. And all of us kind of had different paths of getting there, but ultimately we all got to the same answer. Yeah. And that's because there is a lot of unknown. It's hard to stick your neck out and be like, yeah, 8-4, 9-3 or something. I think a lot of people I've seen have predicted 6-6, 7-5. That's kind of been the range. I think those are very reasonable. I would have a hard time seeing Virginia Tech miss a bowl game. That would surprise me. Wouldn't shock me.
It wouldn't surprise me.
It would surprise me a little bit, just because even when the going's been really bad under Pry, and you kind of throw year 1 out, but like year 2, with as bad of a start as Virginia Tech got off to, they still found a way to get to 6. You know, last year, again, easier schedule last year, more talent on the roster, right? Easier schedule. It was 6-6, even with some really dumb losses, right? There's enough on here. There are enough questions with the ACC opponents in particular that, you know, I think 6 wins is reasonable. I think 7 wins is reasonable. I even think 5 wins is reasonable, but it would surprise me if this team did not make a bowl game. I think this is a bowl team. I don't know how much better they're going to be than that, though.
I mean, the other way to look at it, though, right? I mean, Virginia Tech 6-6 last year. That was a better than 6-6 roster. I mean,
yeah.
The statistical improbability of how those 6 losses came, right? Like, I mean, Vanderbilt, the overtime loss, Rutgers, stupid loss, albeit a close one. Miami, we can relitigate that whenever we want, say that we should have won, but we didn't. Syracuse, you blow the lead, lose in overtime. Duke, a nail biter. Clemson tried to give you every chance that they could to win for you to win, and you couldn't capitalize there. Statistical improbability of dropping all of those coin flip games, essentially. But on the other side of things, is that some sort of big coincidence? Or was that coaching staff showing you who they are each and every week, that they couldn't get there? Now, new faces on the coaching staff, seemingly good news, right? Lots of new faces on the roster. If they do anything this year, it's a story of doing more with less, which would certainly be a redemption story out of a team that frankly did less with more, right? I mean, that was the hype around the talent on the team, though there were flaws last year that were more glaring than we might have anticipated going in. That was certainly an 8-win ACC football team as constructed, and they eked out 6. Could you get 7 or 8 with less this year? Who knows? I guess what we're all here to find out.
Yeah, I think, like you guys said, it's hard to go anything outside of the 5 to 7 win range. And Mike, if you think 7 wins is reasonable, perhaps you are sniffing glue.
I'm going to leave the
Grayson,
sniffing
thank
glue
you.
part there. We'll leave that right there. But the rest of it, point well taken.
Andrew, or excuse me, Grayson, it's not like 1990 anymore, man. Like you gotta come up with some new
Puffing.
jokes.
We're dating ourselves, guys.
Puffing grass? Yeah.
Yeah, a bunch of how do you do, fellow kids? Yeah, a bunch of washed up millennials on this show. Anything else before we wrap this up? Before we do, I've got a Grayson. Before we do, I've got a surprise announcement that we've been teasing all off season. Anything else before we get to that?
No.
Well said.
I'm good. See y'all in Atlanta.
Yeah. We'll be back here in a couple days for the South Carolina preview. Looking forward to that. You may know how we're going to predict the win-losses, but we'll get it more in detail into the Gamecocks and talk about the ins and outs of this game. But as we've been kind of teasing for a couple months now, there's been something that we've been working on behind the scenes. It's kind of I feel like a no-brainer for a podcast, especially a podcast of our size, something that we needed to do a while ago. And with the help of everyone here, we've been able to finally get it off the ground. So if you guys don't mind, I'll share our new website. We've been working on this for a while. Still may make some additions here, but there's plenty of different things on here that we're going to have updated all year. All the episodes, whether it be YouTube, live, or audio, will automatically publish here to the site, so you'll know exactly where to find the latest episode. All of our platforms that we're going to be available on, you can find here and subscribe or follow, depending on which one you want to use. You'll be able to track our weekly ACC picks, which is something that we've talked about for years, but we've never actually done and put them out. If you haven't,
producer Scott is useless.
yeah. Somebody tell him he needs to work for free. We actually need to come up with a wager though this year, so that way these picks actually mean something. So if you're listening and you have any ideas, tweet them at us, comment here on the YouTube video. Tell us what you think a good friendly wager would be. Please keep it PG. It'd be a shame if we had to do something crazy. And then of course we'll have some written content as well, probably mostly for me because I'm the writing nerd on the show. But this will be a good spot for all of our listeners to find all of our latest content. We'll have photos from each game that Izzy's going to shoot, starting with the South Carolina game this weekend. It's a fun project. I'm looking forward to expanding on it and excited to finally give it out to you guys.
HokieHangoverPod.com.
Yep. Bookmark it. So loser has to wear UVA gear to a bar in
Blacksburg. I'm in. Let's do this.
Let's do it.
For
Thank you,
the love
Caleb.
of God, no. You can bet your ass I would not
Let's
be
do
caught
it.
So we
dead
want Ricky to do it anyways. Got
Let's
it.
do it.
Boonville gear.
Let's do it.
Anyway, like I said, we'll be back here in a couple days. We'll get the South Carolina preview out the door so you guys can listen to that. Again, Counts Family Pharmacy in Blacksburg. It's the place to get all of your pharmaceutical needs. Home field apparel. If you don't have any good tech gear, I don't know what you're waiting for. Go ahead and get that order in now. Use Beamer Ball as your promo code for 15%. Caleb, as the resident non-degenerate on the show, I probably will lose. But we'll find out. We'll see.
Caleb, we'll make sure to live stream it when Ricky's and Sharky's and UVA gear.
I was
Don't
going
worry
to
about that.
say the loser does have to live stream it.
Oh, we're on it.
Live stream
Well,
it.
I would think we would all have to be there, and
Yes.
then we would have to, So
Yeah. Pictures, videos for social has to
and
be.
last thing, really quick before we wrap it up, we always talk about the march to Annapolis, right? It's kind of the lore of the show. Folks, book your calendars now. Monday, December 29th, 2025. The Birmingham Bowl.
Ooh.
Put it on your calendars. Book it.
You know,
Book it.
it would be a first for me to.
I've always wanted to go to Birmingham, Alabama.
It
I've been.
would.
It's not worth it.
I was going to say it can't be good. It can't be good, but we'll make it happen.
Shreveport, 10 years later. They have casinos there, right?
Yeah, but I was
Just
looking.
not
Are they
the Sun
still in the
Bowl.
bowl tie-ins for the ACC?
I don't
I'm
know
not-
if the Independence is. The Sun
I'm
Bowl
not seeing
certainly
them.
is.
We've got the LA Bowl hosted by Gronk, the Gasparilla Bowl, the Military Bowl, the Pinstripe Bowl, Fenway Bowl, Pop-Tarts Bowl, which would be incredibly amazing, Gator Bowl, Birmingham Bowl, Alamo Bowl in San Antonio, the Sun Bowl in El Paso, and then the Las Vegas Bowl in, you guessed it, Las Vegas.
Vegas would be
So,
fun.
I don't think that there's going to be a Shreveport. Unfortunately, the ACC needs to figure that out because that was always my favorite bowl game to look forward to as a young fan, was watching Virginia Tech play in Shreveport.
Well, we got 13 some odd weeks to figure it out, huh?
I'm telling
How
you,
about this?
December 29th, book your flights.
No. The Camino to El Paso. We're gonna walk to El Paso. The Sun Bowl, baby.
It is.
The Sun Bowl, where it snowed one year when Miami was playing. In the last
Grayson
half
wants a
minute.
West Coast game. Wouldn't you want the LA Bowl, Grayson?
It's too
That's true,
local.
that's in his
Hosted by Gronk.
backyard.
Too local.
Oh, a Gronk. I've done Gronk events. A Gronk event would be great. Speaking of degenerates.
Can we put Gronk in a Hokie Bird mascot?
Hey, say less.
He'd do it.
Yeah, you
We
would.
would.
All right, it's
Took us
Go ahead,
15
Andrew.
weeks to get John Gruden a box. Gonna get Gronk a mascot suit? I don't know.
That's
I
a
don't
fair
know. Either way,
point.
rate, review, subscribe, and make sure to hit that notification button if you like the live stuff on YouTube. If you haven't noticed, we tend to be anywhere between right on time and 15 minutes late. If you don't like staring at the waiting screen, you can get the notification and it'll pop up just in time for you to have probably missed the first 20 seconds of small talk. Sometimes a good cold liner coming in, but other than that, you'll be good to go. And you can always rewind.
indeed. We'll try and be on time for the next one. Until then, though, go Hokies.